Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. I've got a bunch of stories to cover today, so I thought I'd do this style video. Either way, today Nvidia's new GPU pulls insane watts, Intel's butchering their GPU launch, though the final MSRP and more leak for their desktop cards, GPUs going below MSRP, and AMD's new lineup of cards are really expensive. But first, if you haven't joined the Gamer Melt notification squad, what are you waiting for? It's a completely free newsletter that lets you know when PC hardware is released, along with some great deals. And don't worry, I'm not going to send you a bunch of spam. In fact, if we look, I haven't sent anything out in 2 weeks. We're talking April 20th. Now, you can see that I sent 2 things on April 20th, but that's just because 2 things were released. Basically, the main focus is on big releases like CPUs, GPUs, etc. So some weeks you won't get anything and other weeks you'll get a few. I'm also thinking about build suggestions once in a while, but that's about it. So if you're sick of being late to buy new hardware or you just want to know when it's released, join the Gamer Melt notification squad by visiting the link in the description below. And when you do, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, as you can see, Nvidia's new RTX 3090 Ti just got a custom BIOS that lets it get up to a whopping 890 watts. That's pretty wild. Now, obviously letting it get that high doesn't necessarily mean it will, but apparently Mega-sized GPU, who actually created the BIOS, was able to push the RTX 3090 Ti TUF to 615 watts. Basically, he was able to get this with a regular 3090 Ti, and ultimately, I think this just proves that Nvidia's next-gen cards really could get the wild power draw we're seeing from rumors. Whether it actually will is of course tough to say, but given we've heard this from multiple trustworthy leakers, I'd say it's almost confirmed at this point. And next up for today, we move to Intel, specifically their Arc GPUs. And if you've been following along with this with me, you've kind of seen the blunder that's been happening with Intel. Basically, they were supposed to launch in Q1 of this year, or technically, if you remember, they were supposed to launch, I believe, in 2020. So they're already extremely late, but then they finally started introducing, okay, it's called Arc, and then it's going to be Q1 2021. And then they went, well, the desktop cards are actually going to be Q2 of this year, with the mobile cards coming in Q1. Then they released the mobile cards right towards the end of Q1, except they only released it in one region for one notebook. So they're clearly having major issues. And we don't have to look much further than their drivers. As you can see right here, on March 30th, Intel promised to release an updated driver for its Arc GPUs. Then when we go down here, Intel was to release a new driver by the end of April that would include an option to disable benchmark-specific optimizations. As you can see, they stated by the end of April, we will add a UI option that allows users to toggle these benchmark-specific optimizations on and off. So April has come and gone, and we don't have the update. With that said, what we do have is pretty much everything else. As you can see right here, we have a new leak from WCCF Tech. And according to them, it says our friends in Taiwan told us that Intel held a call for some of its supply chain members a week ago and revealed some final details about its upcoming Arc launch. So let's go over it. First up, Intel is going to be releasing 3 GPUs, 2 of which will launch together, and then the third will launch weeks later. As you can see, it says the initial launch will consist of the A750, A380, and then the A580 a few weeks later. Now, the flagship, which is their best card, the A780, will not be launching in the first release, so they're mostly going to be focusing on mid to low-end cards. Now, while talking mid to low-end cards, they actually state supposedly what they're comparable to. So you can see that the A750 is apparently comparable to the RTX 3060, the A580 to the 3050, and the A380 to the 1650. And as you can see, the expected release is the end of May to early June, and then the A580 around July, then also the end of May and early June, the A380, because both of those are going to be releasing at the same time. Then later on, a month or so later, the A580 will make its debut. And this this brings us to the MSRP. As you can see, the mid-range GPU A750 has an MSRP of $350. Now, if you saw my last video, you know that I actually went over some potential pricing based on a giveaway that was done by Intel where they gave the actual value of all the prizes. We kind of did a little bit of math to determine that it was going to be pretty wildly expensive. This is quite a bit lower, though of course this still is not their highest end GPU, but if what it's comparable to is correct, it still looks really bad. Of course, Intel likely overestimated the actual value, or they sent out a ton of merch, like hundreds of dollars worth, but like I said, this still is really bad. So if the A750 is comparable to the RTX 3050, they say it has an MSRP of $350. Too bad the RTX 3060 had an MSRP of $330, and it's 2 years old at this point, or at least almost. Now, you could argue that technically it hasn't been that price just because GPU prices have been through the roof pretty much since the 3000 series was released, but I actually have a story on that. Things do certainly look to be getting better, and of course, if these get delayed any more than this, both AMD and Nvidia should have their newest next generation GPUs out, which will likely make this look even worse. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments. Maybe if these actually release completely at MSRP on these dates, it'll be alright given the market, but it still kind of sucks. And speaking of things that suck, WCCF Tech apparently got a hold of benchmarks, pricing, pretty much everything about AMD's upcoming 6050 series of GPUs, and yeah, it sucks. Starting things off, let's go over pricing. First up, we have the RX 6950 XT, which is $1,099. Now, right off the bat, that may not sound terrible, but given Nvidia released their super GPUs a little while back for the 2000 series, so I mean they're obviously old now, but given that's essentially what this is, although I would argue Nvidia did it better with the 2000 series, but I'll get to that in just a second, yet with the super cards, they were the same price as the non-super cards. As you can see here, the 6950 XT is $100 more than the 6900 XT. Then when we move down, you can see we have the 6750 XT, which is $549, almost $100 more than the 6700 XT. Then when we move down further, we have the 6650 XT, $399, around $50 more than the current 6600 XT. Now, before I get to performance, I will say that there is at least one reason they're likely doing this, and that's because while yes, we've seen absurd prices through the roof for a really long time, mostly the ones that have been benefiting from this have likely been retailers and AIB partners. AMD has likely been selling the actual chips for the same price throughout this whole thing. Well, I'm sure that they upped things a little bit more as their pricing went up, but nowhere near the pricing we've been seeing. So this is likely a way for them to get in on that, given retailers are gonna up the price regardless. But that would have been fine, say, 6 months ago, even 2 months ago. But right now, things really seem to be getting better. So at least if you ask me, the pricing is pretty absurd. With that said, let's go over performance. First up, really quickly, we have a comparison with 3D Mark Time Spy, where you can see that the 6950 XT actually beats the 3090 Ti. And when we go back here, starting with the 6950 XT, we can see that it does just a little bit better over the regular 6900 XT. And I will actually say minor, it looks like this is actually the only exception. It absolutely does beat the RTX 3090. And of course, when we compare it to that price, it really does make AMD's price jump not look that bad, but as you can see here, the 6950 XT is only 4% faster than the 6900 XT. So it's barely faster, and I actually went over the specs not long ago. It's essentially the same thing with faster memory and slightly higher clocks, though also higher power draw. That was not the case for Nvidia's supercards. They literally had most of them more cores than the non-super variant. They effectively were just as good almost as the higher end card for the same price as the lower end card. So once again, I definitely feel like Nvidia did significantly better with their super refresh than these 50 cards, but once again, you could argue this is a different time. Anyway, moving down, okay, the 6750 XT, and it actually does 7% faster than the regular 6700 XT, but when compared to the 3070, it's only 2% faster. Moving down to the 6650 XT, look at this. Yeah, it's 23% faster than the 3060, and that is very significant. That's obviously a big difference, but 2% faster than the 6600 XT. Yet it's, I believe, right around $50 more. So I really don't think they can justify this. Now, right now, prices are a bit higher, but things actually still look to be getting even better with today's final story. As you can see here, we have a story from PC Gamer, and it involves Corsair and what they're saying about GPUs. Specifically, you can see here, they say, quote, during Q1, GPU cards, which are the most expensive item in a gaming PC. Oh, and I said they, what I mean is the company's CEO, Andy Paul, says during Q1, GPU cards, which are the most expensive item in a gaming PC, were still at a high premium, roughly 150% of MSRP. And even with this premium, we saw gaming PCs build. Here it is right here. We expect that GPU cards will be back to MSRP in the near term, perhaps discounted below MSRP. Now, I will say that this is in sharp contrast to Nvidia's statement that shortages will last until 2024, but maybe they weren't referencing to GPUs, or maybe we haven't really felt this newer sort of shortage due to the tooling now being in short supply. I'm really not sure, but either way, at least in the near term, it looks like prices will be getting back to MSRP or even below, to which it already is. As you can see right here, Newegg, we have a Gigabyte RX 6900 XT that you might say, oh, well, $1,000 is the MSRP of the 6900 XT, though this is obviously a third-party card. Those are typically a bit more expensive anyway, but they have a $50 rebate. So this card is officially under MSRP, which means we are finally there, and it really does look like things are getting better every single day. And of course, if you're interested in this card, I will have an affiliate link down in the description below. It doesn't cost you anything more, and it helps the channel out. Okay, so while that does it for today, I know I rambled quite a bit, but there was a lot of things to cover. And before I go, I really quickly want to make one statement. I've been getting a lot of emails from people that basically say they're getting comments on YouTube from someone who's pretending to be me, saying that they won some kind of prize. Apparently, a ton of people are getting this. I'm going to try and look out for it and delete those comments where I see them, but these bots are replying all over the place, so I highly doubt I'll be able to do that. So basically, anyone who's wondering, right now I'm not doing a giveaway, but when I do, I will never ever announce it in a reply or anything like that. So please know that is 100% a scam. Do not give them any of your information. So yeah, let me know what you thought about today's stories down in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to check out the GamerMail notification squad. And as always, have a great day.